is they're becoming a bit more immersive. So it's not about shops and department stores, we've done all that. It's going to be much more about selling you stories, beautiful stories, and then you might want to buy the products. Each one is going to take you on a little journey. A more analogue example of that would be Dyson. You know, you go into Dyson, it's a museum really, it's a science museum. And it takes you on a journey showing you how they designed it and built it. And at the end of it, you think, oh my God, I must buy myself a £300 hairdryer.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Modern Man, Conversations on the Human Experience. My name is Hamza Idris and I'm your host as usual. Today we're stepping into the future, exploring the fascinating world of AI and its impact on retail, technology and the human experience. Joining us is the amazing Howard Saunders, the retail futurist himself. Howard is a renowned writer, speaker and trend hunter who's been immersed in the world of retail for over 2 decades. He's got a gift for seeing beyond the horizons and helping businesses navigate their ever-evolving commerce landscape. We'll be diving into Howard's insight on the rise of AI, the changing face of retail, and the enduring importance of human connection in a digital world. So get comfortable as we chat and let's welcome the retail futurist himself, Mr. Howard. Welcome to the Modern Man podcast, Howard.
Hi, thank you for inviting me. I just love that intro. I sound quite good.
It's because you are quite good. How's your day going? Thank you so much for being on here.
Yeah, it's all good. It's about -2 out there. I've just come back 2 days ago. I was in 32 degrees, so it's a little bit of shock to the system, but you know.
It is freezing and it's crazy how the temperature has just changed overnight. My mom was staying with us for a while and she was really enjoying the weather, and the day she left, we had like the snowstorm.
Yeah,
absolutely
I know.
Crazy.
I was on the coast yesterday and seriously, there were horizontal winds. The canopies were whacking, were in the wind, and sleet coming in horizontally. It was like, holy. It was like, I think it was like -2. But it felt like -6. That's enough for me.
That's the thing, like the temperature is not exactly always how it feels. It's one temperature, but then it could feel a few degrees lower.
Well, this is another whole podcast here. But I used to live in New York, and in New York it gets very cold. I mean, I've been out in New York -20 or whatever it is, but it's dry, and it's without the humidity, and then it's sort of fine. It's cold, you dress up and you go out and it's sunny. But here in the UK, it's not dry.
It's not dry at all.
And as a result, it feels that much colder.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Enough of the weather chat.
We always have to. It's an obligatory intro into the episode, right? It's always talking about the weather, especially in the UK where the weather isn't always, the best. It's kind of the first thing a lot of people talk about when we see each other. It's like, the weather's horrendous today, isn't it?
It's hilarious.
Yeah. So Howard, tell me your story.
God, my story. My life story? Well, back in the Jurassic period. I don't know. My story is I don't know. I feel like I was born a designer. That sounds arrogant, but I don't mean it.
I don't think so.
It's like you feel like, when I was 3, 4, 5, I'm drawing racing cars and whatever. So I can see myself now sitting on my little fireplace. Seriously, kneeling in my shorts or whatever, and trying to draw the fastest looking car ever, or always designing something, but never just copying, always thinking how. And I think that fundamentally is something in my genetic makeup, and millions of others. I'm not suggesting it's some rare thing, but the way you kind of want to alter the world around you, and I think that's the nature of design. Which is, you walk into a room, into a space, or you pick up an object or a product, and you think, how could this be better? And I think that's just in me, and I think it's in millions of people. And that then led into being a graphic designer. I started as a graphic designer, 1,000 years before you were born, Hamza. Before computers, actually. And that's true. It's true. And we were cutting everything out of Pantone papers with scalpels, and it's hilarious looking back. And the most important thing I did, and I'm glad to mention it actually, is I joined a company called Fitch and Company, and they are still a renowned design company, begun by Rodney Fitch, who invented retail design. Is it okay? So he just did. He split up from Terence Conran, who you might have heard of, who went off and did his own things incredibly successfully. And Rodney Fitch, who's no longer with us, sadly, nor is Terence Conran. The world moves on. He really did invent retail design. Before that, you had architects employing artists or their niece or something to pick the colours and the typeface. It really, and that sounds trite, but it really was like that. And you had interior designers who would come in and choose the colours, something. And then suddenly he turned what was this invisible thing, really, this emerging world of retail. Suddenly he made it tangible, retail design as a proper subject you could study, if you like. And he was brilliant, and he was my mentor for the years that I worked there. And that shapes you forever, really. I can see him now. This is must have been 1985 or 6 or something. And we're all in a boardroom, all these young trendies, because believe it or not, I used to be quite young. All these young trendies with 80s haircuts, and puffy shoulders or whatever we were wearing. Ripped jeans. I remember wearing lots of ripped jeans. And we'd sit in these boardrooms, because the company is run by us, i.e. 20-year-olds. We did not have this managerial level. And Rodney Fitch would come in and see what the kids were up to. And he'd sit there on the windowsill and listen to all us nonsense talking about what this design of this store could look like. And he'd just say, what does it mean for the shopper? What does it mean for her? What does it mean for him? And he always brought it back to that. And that's in my brain all the while. So when you hear all this nonsense talked about, someone's just asked me to do something on data analytics, and it bores me. What does it mean? What does it mean for the shopper, for us? And do you know who shoppers are? Us, humans. So, when we all say the customer, who's the customer? Us. We're all customers of everything. So, that is ingrained in me. So I went from design, I'll cut it short now, from design, set up my own agency, a trend hunting agency, moved to New York. This is a very short version. Moved to New York, had a good opportunity there, wrote a book about the regeneration of Brooklyn. Hang on. Actually, I'll tell you what, you're not even asked the question, but, who is this cheeky bastard who calls himself a futurist? Well, I'll tell you why, because I used to do talks about, in my world of trend hunting, I suppose, talk about, I travelled and tried to understand retail. So my clients, Marks and Spencers and Waitrose and all the high street, would say, what's happening in Japan? And can you come and show us, the latest stores you've just seen in Denmark and all, whatever. And that's what I do. And I try and make sense of how the world's changing. Boom, something changed. 2008. I know it's a long while ago, but it was the crash. And at the time of the crash, at the time of that crash, suddenly people stopped asking about, what's happening in Japan and in Australia. No, they didn't want to know that anymore. They wanted to know about the future. And by the time I moved to New York in 2012, it was obvious I was really being employed to go from talk to talk about where we're heading, not about best in practice in department stores out there already, much more about where we're heading. And so with a bit of New York hubris, I branded myself the retail futurist, and so that's here we are.
It's really great. One thing that you said, just to pick up on before we move on, is that focusing on the customer, especially for the retail experience, a lot of people are so interested in what other people are doing, but what does it mean for your customer? Because every retail outlet has a different set of customer that comes in, right?
Well, there's a massive crossover, but I can't bear these sort of analysts who... There's a lot of things I can't bear. You'll get to know me. They walk into stores and with their hands on their hips and measure the aisle width and the light levels and the tap at the units and as if this should be positioned at a 45-degree angle, and it's shut up. If you just do something good. Hey, how about doing something nice? How about selling something nice? Selling something we can't get anywhere else. and tell me a bit about it,
Yeah.
because that's the other thing retailers are bad at, telling you something. Is this just a bag? Did this just land from Mars? Or is there a story involved in it? And so it's much more human, retail.
Yeah.
It's not a science. It's an art, if anything.
Yeah. So, and you've described AI as a platform rather than just another technology. Can you elaborate on that concept and how it's changing the way we interact with technology and each other?
Well, AI. I'm a positive guy. I think
Yeah.
on the whole, I'm certainly an optimist in my professional life. My personal life, we won't talk about, but in my professional life, I'm an optimist, and
Yeah.
I love new stuff. So AI comes, I'm messing with it. I'm writing songs and doing videos. I'm not
Yeah.
going to let you see any
Exploring.
of them, but I'm exploring. And I'm doing animations, and I'm doing avatars, and I'm just having fun in the world of AI. But so I hear all this nonsense talked about, where we're heading, and they talk about AI as if it's almost a new technology out there that's sort of a few websites that you go to or something. And the truth is, it's a platform. It's the way in which we react to technology now is you sit at a screen and you type in certain commands and things happen and things. Well, so we're morphing into a world where it already knows half the stuff. It knows everything. You will be able to speak commands. You will have an earbud in. That's why they're priming you with earbuds.
Yeah.
That's what it is. They're getting you ready to have a personal assistant. Joaquin Phoenix in Her, if you haven't seen it, you must see it. 2013 film, very, very, very futuristic and accurate. You will have an assistant in your head, whether it's Scarlett Johansson or Albert Einstein, and he will be able to answer your innermost mutterings, will know where you are on the planet, what you're looking at, and all of that's what AI brings us. It's a way of how humans connect to technology. So even a platform's not really a great description. It's just how do humans integrate with technology. And at the moment, we have to walk up to a screen and tap in letters. That will all change and is changing super fast. So that's what's exciting and scary. And I'm not stupid. I'm fully aware of everything is yin yang. There's always a negative side. My job is to try and I find myself a little alone here. Not alone, but a little isolated in trying to be positive about the effects. So I'm just having a lot of fun with it. And embracing the fact that creative content is sort of free.
Yeah.
And my legacy of being in the world of design, well, it will have to massively change very, very radically, very quickly indeed.
And I think that's one of the great things about what you do. And to be honest, one of the things that attracted me to listening to you or to keep listening to you is that the world is just filled with so much negativity, and it's so easy for people to criticize. It's so easy for people to be afraid. I think one of the greatest tools people have used previously negatively is the tool of fear, right? Instilling fear into people.
Absolutely.
So it's really great that we have people like you, talking about the positive aspects of AI and talking about what we expect to see, future. So I thank you for that. Please don't ever give up. So what excites you most about the future of AI, and what are some of the ways you see it enhancing our lives and creating new possibilities?
It's such a big question, and I can only really focus on the bit that I know about.
Of course.
Because you have to sort of preface everything with the sinister side, because I'm not stupid. I do understand that the surveillance culture, that when governments know everything about us, they'll be able to tax us more and fine us more and regulate everything more. Of course, and all that's the yin or the whichever. That's one side of it. The other side is that we've got the most creative tools. You cannot even imagine, that I couldn't have ever imagined 10 years ago. We now have access to those. It's incredible. Yeah. The idea that I'm, I know it's me, but hey, you're interviewing me. Well,
exactly.
Exactly. 6 months ago, I started playing with sort of animation stuff and tiny little clips of video, and they're all a bit warped and a bit fun. I thought it was amazing. And then I got a little bit better, and the programs got better. Well, it's changing in 2 week intervals, I tell you. It's moving so fast.
Yeah.
So now I'm piecing together little videos of stuff. It lasts longer, the video sections last longer. The hands don't no longer look creepy, the eyes don't go blurry. You're getting detail. So content is now free. So if you're in the world of retail saying something, if you've got something to sell, you might have something you want to say. And that might need a backdrop, or it might need a little video or intro, or it might need, well, that's all free. Illustration is free. Now, I can hear illustrators replying to this going, yeah, it's disgusting, it's not human. It's just very, very impressive. And we have to, as humans, we can't deny it. We can't be in denial. We have to embrace it.
It's like
because
running
it's ours.
it's like running to live under a rock and expecting the world wouldn't change. It will. You can either be
It
part
really
of that
will.
change. Yeah, you can either be part of that change, embrace it, and figure out how to live with it, or you can run and hide and come back to a different world.
Oh, no, I remember my father saying that these computers that are coming in, this was back in the 80s, and it's going to take your job away. He always liked to scare me. Yeah. And of course, well, no, it didn't, did it? It actually ended up as a tool for us to create more and more incredible stuff. And,
exactly.
I was arguing with someone on LinkedIn and explaining, they're saying, well, yeah, but AI kind of regurgitates most of the stuff that's already out there. It's not true. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. I saw it was an interview I think you responded to, right?
But someone said, yes, that's right. Yes, it was an interview with
Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck, yeah. And my response was, you could see a whiff of fear there, which you can.
Yes.
Of course
you
can.
Could sense the fear.
I don't think he has to panic, poor old Ben, because, I'm worried about Ben making a living. Not forget me. Jesus. But obviously, my whole raison d'etre is to say humans trump everything, to use that dreaded word. Humans trump everything. They just do. But in this AI lubricated world, we're going to want we'll come back to that later, but we want humanity more. But you cannot deny the power of the creativity of this thing. And as in one of my answers to somebody on LinkedIn, I said, because they were sort of saying, yeah, but it all kind of regurgitates. I said, and I wrote, 2 porcelain monkeys wrestling in a bird cage. An aged woman with yellow teeth and an ill-fitting wig in a 1960s attic stroking a boa constrictor around her neck. I did that. I made that video. I made that and put that in. The idea that it's sort of plundering some archive of 60s footage and regurgitating. No, it's not. It's not. There's never been 2 porcelain monkeys in a film, but AI will produce it. So, what does all that nonsense mean? It means that if you're a business or you've got a little product to sell, then maybe a little idea that you have in your head that once you'd have to say, well, I've got this kind of idea. I don't know why I do a silly voice, but I've got a sort of idea. Maybe I'll get a designer in. My niece is a designer. I could talk to her, and then I might employ a design company. And they'll come in and they'll do sketches, and then I don't know if I like those sketches, and maybe we could work them up a bit. No. Now you can just write or say what you want to see. Whether
and
that's
continually change it, right?
Absolutely, and say we will be in a position to create films that happen. So you can't even call them a film, a movie. You can't call it a movie because it'd be like living in a real-time game.
Yes.
And I can say to you, we could both put on headsets, and I could say, right, the forest draws itself up out of the water in front of us, and you're going. We're both there together, and I'm looking at you, and you're looking back at me, and we're avatars, whatever. And the forest comes up, and I say, bark music in the background, and this bark style music. And I say, no, more violins, actually, more violin. And it brings the violins up, and you're going, this is, whoa. Now, okay, and you just add in, you go, the forest parts, and 100,000 metallic I'm making this up as I go along.
Yeah.
Metallic.
Really good. It sounds like you rehearsed it.
Yeah, no, it does. Robot bees fly out of the leaves and they make a face in the air. I don't know. Anything you want. Anything you want. And we will be living in that visual, 360, looking around. So the creative possibilities are endless, and you have to say to Ben Affleck, it's not that we don't want to watch your beautiful humanity on screen. I believe that we will, but that you have to understand the tools, the creative tools that can add to what his beautiful humanity does. And he admits to that, that the effects are going to be so much cheaper and so much cleverer, because whatever you say, because if you're doing graphics effects, you go and talk to a graphics effects company, CGI company, and they say, well, maybe we could do this, what sort of thing do you want? And they're sort of regurgitating, actually. They're sort of thinking, oh, what sort of thing does he want? We could try and do it a bit like that, a bit like, do you mean a bit like in, when that Tom Cruise film, a bit like that, but a bit. In other words, we're all working with the stuff that's already out there. But with AI, actually, you're free. You're free to think the unthinkable. You can think anything, and it will create it. So that's tremendously creative. And that's now. That isn't, in 50 years' time, 10 years' time. That's now. We can create, and I'm trying to help prove some of that in my own stupid little, I'm an old bloke. Doing pop videos and stuff. It's ridiculous. And the music. Can I just, because people say, oh, you did, what did you do that on that, you just pressed the app. And no. So of course you can go onto these AI music programs and say, on a reggae song about a bull in a china shop, and it does it, puts the do it. Of course it's crap, But if you're a little more studied than that, a little more careful than that, you can think of the genre you want, and you write in the genre, but you can say, I want it with recorders and violins, or you can say, and I've just done all this, and you could say, I want it just very muted, with heavy reverb and beats per minute, 140 per minute. You write what you want it. It sometimes ignores you, by the way. It often ignores you.
It's not perfect.
No, it's not perfect, but it will get better and better and better.
Of course.
And then you can say, I want a little intro coming from pulling out of nothing, from silence to building to a crescendo of this with orchestral, and making it up. So you feed that in, and you might press the button of this magical jukebox. You might press the button a dozen times. Maybe I've done it 20 odd times, and then suddenly, and they're all a bit, no. Well, boom, and then you go, holy shit! I quite like this. Yeah. Now you've got an intro. Then you decide where you go with the next. I know this is about music, but it doesn't matter what it is. It's a creative process. You then add the next bit. You then start adding the vocals, and you build a piece in front of you. To go back to, my first working days in the 80s, and that we weren't publishing anything. You had to go to printers. My children, little 8-year-olds, are publishing their innermost thoughts to the entire planet. We live in this new age with all its dangers that I accept. But what an incredible time to be alive. I only wish I could live a little longer.
So, staying in the same arena, but stepping away slightly, you've said, and I quote, AI could fantastically lubricate our lives by knowing exactly who we are. Can you expand on that idea and how it might impact our daily experiences and interactions?
Yeah, well, retail, that's my area. So obviously, I always think of Apple, which we're trying to connect this thing up with swearing about Apple. But so I introduced the first Apple computer to Fitch. I daren't tell you the year because it was like 1980. Everyone thinks it's late 80s, but I think, yes, it was probably 89, 90. It was, anyway. And since that day, since, say, 1989, I've been buying Apple computers. And all the gear you see around you, all of this is all Apple and a phone. And how much money have I... Yes. How much money have I spent with them? Thousands, hundreds of thousands. And if you include the companies, I've said, this is the one we should go for. Whatever. Yeah. Hundreds of thousands of pounds. And they're the cleverest company on planet Earth, rough, sort of, as well as the richest. And if I go into their Regent Street Flagship, they don't know who the fuck I am. Do you see what I mean? In other words, you think you've invested your whole life into this brand that they should be rolling out the red carpet, and there should be crowds cheering as I walk in. Oh, thank you for coming back. And because they weren't even born when I bought the first computer, and they talk to you at the help desk at the Genius Bar, these lovely Genius embryos standing at the bar saying, oh, have you used a Mac before? Is that I was using them 20 years before you were born. For Christ's sake, you think, just because I'm old, you think I'm an idiot. So look, this is the truth. So the Apple Store, this is a clever company. I'm not talking about walking into, Holland and Barrett. Why did I mention them? I'm talking about walking into the cleverest company on planet Earth that also happens to be the richest, that also happens to be all about tech. And they know nothing about me. That's a shame in a way. I'm not suggesting the assistants need to know everything, but maybe when you're buying something, they could roughly see how it fits into everything else you've got, that maybe you're worthy of some sort of loyalty scheme or something. Nothing. So AI can change all that. Yeah. So that it does know who you are and what your heritage with the brand is and what your preferences are. To such a point, I try to help you with these with visual examples, because it's ever so easy to talk in sort of rhetoric. Yeah. There may come a time, when you look at when you buy something on Amazon, or even your Instagram page, you look at your Amazon page and you bought some boring piece of plastic from China. Underneath it says things you might also like. Well, that's an algorithm. That's a little bit of artificial intelligence, if you like, that's working out the sort of thing you might like. Well, imagine walking into a store, a dark store, say. This is just an idea. I'm just, So instead of department store laying everything out that they've found around the world, brackets, mostly China, instead of them laying it all out and pretending it's all posh, imagine a space, an immersive space. You go in and you've logged in with your phone. It's got all your, only if you want to, you don't have to, you could hide yourself if you want. But for privacy reasons, you don't want, but you decide, this is my brand. I want them to know everything about me. Tell me, hit me, babe. You walk in, you touch your phone on the thing, hit me with it. And it emerges all the technology you might think you want to introduce in your home, with examples of how it fits into your home. Fashion items that emerge in front of you that say, this is in your colours that you like, because it knows what you want. All of that's possible. It's just about knowledge, isn't it? At the moment, we're going into stores where they know absolutely nothing about you. They don't give a shit in the first place. And worse than that, they know nothing about what they're selling. Yeah. If you say, where do these? Excuse me, miss. Sorry. Excuse, miss. It's terribly sorry. Can I bother you? What's up? These jeans, why do they exist? Who made them? What do you mean? No, she's got a very deep voice, hasn't she? It's deeper than mine. Who designed them? I don't know. Where are they made? No idea. What size are you? No, that's not the point. There's nothing. You're selling stuff you don't know anything about. Yeah. It's quite an extraordinary thing, isn't it?
It is. Hey there, it's Hamza. I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. It really does help the channel grow. For more info, check out our website at tmmpodcast.com. Now, back to the episode.
So anyway, that missing gap there of knowledge and why things exist, and what they're there for in the first place, can be filled by knowledge that we're now calling artificial intelligence, that can tell us the story of things, can show us where they're made, can show us how they're made. And that surely is a massive breakthrough, because at the moment we're still living in a world where we're sort of assuming that department stores are impressive, and they're not. We've walked into back in the 60s, and my mum dragged me along, like a 4-year-old walking into department stores. It was all amazing, wasn't it? It was bright lights and shiny stuff, and I thought, wow, this is cool.
It was new and different at that point.
Yes, and it was almost like they plundered the world of exotic stuff and, you know, brought it in from all over. And then here you too could have this in your home. And, you know, it's all quite exciting. Well, now we've all got we've got these screens in front of us, these little, you know, I always refer to the little black glass screen that knows everything and can show you anything on planet Earth, absolutely anything. And so how impressive could a department store ever be? It's very difficult. So those things would change massively. And the technology to create immersive spaces is already happening. The other thing I must mention, because it's such a good example, because I've been talking about this stuff for a long while, well, you know, 5 years or so, pre-pandemic and all that, talking about how technology could do these sort of things. And now we have an example with the outer net in the middle of Tottenham Court Road, whereby you walk into an immersive space, if you like, along with hundreds of others. And I mean, Lush was a good example. H&M was a good example. And they're not putting up prices. They're not showing you a pair of jeans at $16.99 next to it. No, they take you into an immersive space. They fly you across London. The hallucinogenic journey through, like Lush did, all this sort of hallucinogenic, psychedelic stuff growing in a magical forest. So you just go, wow, in the immersive space. And then as you walk out, there might be a QR code and a product on a plinth. That's what H&M did. You just click on the thing and you can order that iconic product that they've decided to say was their sort of product of the month or whatever. And that is a beautiful retail model. Isn't it? That it's a completely different model than the one we've got at the moment, where you walk in the store and everything's there, and you go in and say, "Have you got my size?"
Could be sometimes overwhelming as well, because there are too many options, right?
Oh, I've got a massive rant I do about choice. You know, we don't really want choice. We always say we do, but we don't. But anyway, so at a retail level, you can see how your question was, how can AI lubricate our lives and knowing heat? I think I answered that. But outside of retail, imagine, I made this point the other day. I took my dad to hospital or whatever, and I drove in the car, just locally. And you walk into the hospital, and it knows nothing about you. Okay? But when you leave, you get there and you have to say, "Sorry, it's my dad. He's come from such and such." You want the clinic KB462F. If you go out of here, they know nothing. They know nothing about you. When you get there, say, "Date of birth? What's your date of birth?" And they look up and they open a metaphorical filing cabinet and pull it. When I left, you go to the payment station for the car, and it's logged how long you've been in there with the car. It knows your car registration. It knows you've been in there probably 650 minutes. And charges.
Going to put hour in.
Exactly. It charges you X.
Yeah.
In other words, it knew more about my car than it did about me or my dad. And AI could resolve that. So imagine when you're going to hospital or the doctors and they actually know who you are with they can actually see proper data in front of them. It actually tells them.
It makes the experience so much better.
Of course, and you feel like you're somebody. Or accessing council services. Instead of having to give you a postcode and then look up something in a filing cabinet, they might actually be there to help you. What about that? So I think right across the board, access to information like that can be tremendously empowering and helpful and lubricating. It can also be surveillance, and there's a negative side that I just have to flag up, but I like to talk about the positive. And I think it will be much more, as we look to the future, our role as customers of both commercial spaces, i.e. retail, and civic spaces, will it be for us to edit how much we let them have. Because you don't want every goddamn restaurant bleeping your phone saying, "Why don't you come? I'll give you a special 16 quid off the," that's what can happen. And I think we will be in command of many more filters, I think, that allow us to navigate the retail landscape that we want to navigate, not the one they want to shout about.
Of course. And one of the important concepts that you talk about is the growing importance of human touch as a valuable currency in the age of AI. So how can businesses and individuals leverage this human element to create meaningful connections and thrive in this growing digital world?
The answer to that is by being nice, by being human, by being human. So my point is, it's such an obvious one, really, but I'll make it nonetheless, which is, we will have that earpiece in. It will. Most of us will be being guided, going. It will know our diet. It will be saying, "Why don't you go here? The quickest way to get to this town is," and whatever. This is, where did this product come from? It will be telling us everything. The more our lives are lubricated by this clever intelligence, the more once we've emerged from this dark space that's shown us these incredible products it can build for us, this bespoke universe that it can create for us. Once we exit onto the street, we're going to want to go and have a beer, because we're not robots. We will want to go and have a coffee. We will want to, and when we go, we want to see a girl's face or a guy's face going hi, with a bit of eye contact, and they look like they actually want you in there. So that binary nature will be much clearer. At the moment, we're confused. We sort of want stores to be a bit automated, serve yourself, you walk around, you do your own thing until you want someone, you're still trying to find someone to ask something.
You can't find someone.
You can't find someone, and they're a bit, what are you talking about? They're just dismissive, they know they don't want to be there. So we're going to see a much clearer distinction between what technology can do and what humans can do.
Of course.
So that's a beautiful thing, isn't it? That's another good... So it's that guy, that girl knows that they're there to be nice, to say hi. One of my rants is I always think, I've just come back from Dubai and the service there is incredible. And they've obviously all been trained, the cleaners and the staff that come and top up the minibar. If you walk past them in the corridor, they go, hi, hello, hello. They're respectful. They don't, because whereas in the UK or in Europe, you walk in the US, you might walk into a store and walk right past them and they don't look up. The US is better in most urban centres. And they will go, hi. Sometimes it can be cheesy, can't it? It's like you go, hi, how are you today? It's like, do I know you?
Really good accent though.
It's like, sorry, do I know you? So we can find some of that a bit overwhelming. However, you've walked into their space, and how damn rude is it? You walk into someone's space and they just ignore you. Or you walk along that corridor and they don't turn, they just look away. That's the thing. We're going to need more and more of that. And so the most precious currency in the future, in this AI lubricated, managed future, will be human contact. Looking you in the eye and knowing that you're real and genuine. It's kind of an obvious thing. And I think we're already seeing that. And I think if you go to the clever brands, I don't know, I haven't tested it in the Zaras and the H&Ms. I haven't not lately. But certainly some of the luxury stores you go into, they make it very clear that, hi, how you doing? Not formal. They're much more casual than they would have been, say, 40 years ago. So it's much more be friendly, make you feel at home in their space. They know their role. That's what their role is.
It's all to create that connection, That's why they're doing that, because you've taken the time to come into store. You could have shopped online. So if you're in the store, it's to create that connection, make you feel welcomed, invite you into their space, invite you to spend your hard-earned money with them, right?
Yeah, I'm doing a talk next week on some hospitality thing, so I've sort of got these things in my head. But I talk about so if you've got this earpiece telling you everything, you will become more narcissistic. So we've already, with the iPhone, the smartphone, we already are super narcissistic. We think we're at the centre of the universe because we have the answers to everything in this little black screen. So there are other reasons why we're narcissistic. The fact that we don't have so many siblings and we're often... I could talk about, I do understand the broad picture. I try to be simplistic when we've got limited time. But on the whole, we're a bit more narcissistic now because we hold this answer to everything, this sort of glass Bible in our hands, if you like. Well, that's going to get worse. because we are now having a voice that's going to be telling us, don't you put up with that. Look here, this is the thing you want to put up to. All what? We're going to become insufferable. I call it the insufferables. So the future customer is going to be bloody awful. But it isn't customer, it's us. It's going to be our policemen, our nurses, our doctors. It's all of us. We're going to be a little bit more insufferable. When we walk into a space, we're going to expect them to be respectful, a bit more respectful than they were previously. Everyone is. Every policeman, every doctor, every teacher. We're all going to be a little bit more entitled. We're going to we think we're the centre. It's a lovely analogy, but it's true. Yeah. We're going to absolutely expect more. So that's why when you walk into someone's space, you have to be a bit nicer today, a bit more of a. We have to try and have an attempt to make a bit more of a connection than perhaps we would have done 25 years ago. Yeah. So those things become more important, and not just because AI is doing all the hard work, if you like.
Yeah, I've listened to some of your previous work, and you've stated that retail is in trouble, right? So what is your advice to workers, companies, and potential investors in the retail industry as it undergoes this transformation?
I don't know. I'm not good on advice. I can tell you what's happening to retail. And it is I'm very clear about this, and let's see if I'm wrong. So what's happening? We've already talked a bit about it. So in the cities, there's a clear distinction. I'll try and answer your question, but I have to paint a picture first. What's happening in cities is they're becoming a bit more immersive. So it's not about shops and department stores. We've done all that. It's going to be much more about selling you stories, beautiful stories, and then you might want to buy the product. So so London, Birmingham, Manchester, they're going to have collections of these, we have to say stores in brackets now, because they're not, are they going to store things anymore? Probably not. They're going to take you on little journeys now. Some of those will be immersive journeys, which are all, I don't know, so you feel like you're walking into this incredible hologram or whatever it may be. Others will just be things on shelves, but they're going to tell you stuff. Each one is going to take you on a little journey, explain why that product is better than any other. A more analogue example of that would be Dyson. You go into Dyson, it's a museum really. It's a science museum, and it takes you on a journey showing you how they designed it and built it. And at the end of it, you say, "Oh my God, I must buy myself a £300 hairdryer." I mean, it's fantastic. It's beautiful retail.
I was almost one of those people a few weeks ago when I went into the store.
I know.
It's just so beautiful.
It's fantastic. And look, you don't stop to think, hang on, a hairdryer normally is about 25 quid. Now, you don't think that. You're already in the 300 quid mark. I mean, it's hilarious. It's beautiful. It's beautiful retail. And they're great products. I'm not being disparaging. So what you've really got in cities are these immersive spaces telling you stories about how good their brands are. Intermixed with grubby little coffee shops where there's, the smiling and the wooden, little rustic places and selling squishy donuts. Obviously, I'm not suggesting the whole of the... when I say these things, people go, "What, you mean everything going immersive?" No, for God's sake. Look, series of flagships that take you on immersive journeys, some in analogue ways, but the idea of products in the window and stock out the back, some of that will exist in little cutesy, nostalgic ways, yes, but the big brands with the money are going to want to seduce us in clever ways, and that's going to use technology and show us things and immersive spaces, all of that. So that's cities. And then in the towns and the villages, if you like, in the suburbs, it's going to be much more about local produce and local stuff, your hairdressers and your nail salon and a baker where you can smell the bread. I know, yes, we're going to have those in the cities too, but so it'll be much more about local products and produce being made. It'll be a little bit artisan. But what we've got at the moment, now that sounds obvious, but that's not what we've got at the moment. What we've got at the moment are towns, sort of Me Too. They're trying to, they might have a Nike, but it's not a flagship Nike, it's a little Nike. A little one, and it's got the tick on the fascia, just like in the West End, in the big store. And underneath it says, I don't know, Nut Bromley, or Hull to let you know you're in the town that you already know you're in. You know, it's stupid. It's a so-called Me Too version of the city. They won't need to have that. The city will be where you go and have the immersive experience. In the town, you'll go to more local spaces. So there's a massive binary shift. So if you're the local baker listening to me, God knows why you should be out baking, not listening to me. But if you are, don't think you've got to bring in immersive technology where you walk into a hologram of dough. You know, this is not what I'm saying.
Not the hologram of dough.
The dreaded hologram of dough. This is not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
See, obviously, we're going to want traditional retail. So I think, in a sense, as the city pushes to the future, the towns will be pushing to the past. And they're already doing that. You look at the trendy greengrocers that we have round the corner of us in Clapham, and you know, it's trying to look like it was Victorian a bit, with the letter spacing and produce sitting out front in the baskets, and the hair salon next door has got gold lettering on. I'm making all this up, of course, but you know what I mean. There's a push back, and you'll get they've got the cornice is painted black again, and the dado height, and a product in the window. You know, it's in a way it's pushing back to the past, traditional retail. So you've got those two binary aspects. So that's the revolution that's happening. You can see the big mainstream brands leaving the towns in their droves. They don't need that model anymore. You can access stuff online and go to the city when you want to experience the full-on flagship immersive experience. So when you say, what should advice be for retail? Well, understand where you are and in both of those scenarios. It's not complicated.
Yeah. So you've had, obviously, a fascinating and fantastic career journey so far. Can you share some of the pivotal moments from your careers or decisions that really shaped the path that you're on now?
Pivotal moments. It's all very grand, isn't it? I think I've already talked to you about Fitch. So the Fitch thing, listen, I was there for 6 years as a creative, leading teams of staff, cutting things out of Pantone paper and working all night and all that. Those ancient days. And since then, I worked at a couple of other very lovely design agencies and set up my own business, all that sort of stuff. But I go back to Fitch because it was those formative years, and I still dream about it. That's another toss. Yeah, and it's not necessarily the real place. You know how dreams sort of morph. But I'm always... So I haven't worked in a team for years, but I'm in my dreams, and I can say last night I had the same thing. I'm trying to brief a team on a project. I'm never quite sure what the project is, and I'm trying to brief a team and explain to them how amazing the opportunity is. And we've got to get our heads around some simple things here. You know, this is what I struggle with at night. It's true. So something is very formative about that, those years. So so that's a pivotal moment, if you like.
Yeah.
The other thing was moving to New York was just an opportunity. And I moved at a very good time. I was there from 12 to 17 and 2012, 2017. And they were incredible. But basically, it was a time, you know, they'd come through the crash and they were regenerating. So we got the local markets and the local markets right outside our apartment, and the craft ales and all the mix of world foods coming on the little stalls. And Brooklyn was emerging with all these fantastic spaces in old warehouses. And that's when I put that Brooklynization together. But it was all about that regeneration. And it was a very, very exciting period. So that's a pivotal moment. In other words, when things look really grim, i.e. when they did post-2008 for a couple of years, we pull out and it becomes more interesting yet again. And that's what I love about retail. That's what I didn't say. Why retail, I think, was, you know, you sort of alluded to. And it's because you get instant results. So if you work in the world of architecture or something, which is a lot of my contemporaries did, you can't see the results of it. It takes 7 years to build anything, garden shed these days. And then, you know, then you don't know whether it really works because you've long since moved off on another project. So kind of, I'm being a bit mean. But they're long-term projects. With retail, if you go into a space and paint the gondola end bright yellow, not literally, but you say, right, this gondola end, well, bright yellow, we're going to leave it like that for the next 3 weeks. Do you know, day 3, you'll already know whether it's selling more. It's that's what's good about it.
Yeah.
So whatever you're doing, you're adjusting all the whole time. It's a very live art, if that's too pretentious a term. It's really, that's what's exciting about it. Instant results.
So if we look back, hindsight is always 2020. Is there anything you wish you had known or done differently throughout your career?
Differently? Well, I don't know. It's a tricky one.
Completely fine to say absolutely nothing.
Yeah, what would I've done differently? I think, look, I didn't have this incredibly successful path. I've just had a nice, gentle, relaxed, taking opportunities as they come and doing your best. I think do your best, even if you're the damn cleaner, or you're the ironing, do a damn good job of it. Move on to the next thing, because you will work your way up. My brothers are brilliant examples of this. They both worked in restaurants and which most people see as a transitionary job. In and out and then off to do something proper. No, they now have, they own restaurants and my brother owns the cinema and, of course, that's how you do it. You have to love the thing you're in and do the best you can in it. I've already said it, but my whole thing, and honestly I think I'm just born with the gene, along with millions of others, contrarian gene. So if they're all telling you one thing, just think about the other. I would say that is one bit of advice. It's just, if the government are telling you this and everyone's saying you've got to do this, you go, just whoa. There's lovely things about, I don't know what pop into, but Darren Brown and this, does his things and he gets all actors in and they show, it's a classic psychological test actually, and they say which line is tallest or which is the tallest line, the one on the left or the right, and all the actors say the left, when clearly the one on the right. And if you're a compliant person, which I am not, okay. Now I want to be taken into this test because there's no way in front of don't know how many people you got in the row saying the left one's taller. If I see it's the right one, I'm bloody well saying
it's the right one. Yeah.
So why? Because I'm honest to myself. I think, Christ, why wouldn't you? But do you know what? Many people are so compliant they don't want to stand out, and they just say, "Oh yes, no, the left," because they don't want to stand out. They want to fit in. Yeah. And it's that's perfectly understandable, but it's very important. And I can remember back in those days at Fitch, I go back, but they were good days. And I was a young 23-year-old, 22, I think I started. Is it really? Maybe. No, maybe a bit older than 23, 24. Sitting there, absolutely young, naive, green, as they say. Complete. Sitting at a table discussing some project with my boss and about 8 others. We had a big team, actually, probably more than that. And thinking, hang on, that's bull. And saying it. And saying, well, hang on. Maybe I didn't say, that's not right. You can't just say that equals that. And instead of them thinking, who's this idiot who's just landed? You're new here. You shut up. It gave me status. And my lesson is tell the truth. It gives you status. One of my heroes, Johnny Rotten, John Lydon. I've got his limited book up there with his signature in it. I met him at an event. He says the truth. He says it how it is. And he's learned, and some of the times it's rude, but he says because he's learned that by telling the truth and cutting through gives him status. And I would say, tell the truth. Be honest. Don't be compliant. Be a contrarian.
Amazing. And I ask every episode that comes on The Modern Man to kind of close the episode with this, and you've alluded to a little bit of advice earlier, but if you could give one piece of advice to the modern man, what would that be? I have to end up telling another story. Back in the 90s, I worked for this Swiss consultancy. Yeah. And they're very, I sort of ran the office in London, Parsons Green. It was very nice days, and the Swiss head HQ would use us as sort of their design office as well. And so
we had some, I don't know, some event, some big anniversary, a 20-year, a 10-year anniversary or something, and I was doing the program for the event, and we had to get everyone's motto for life. They said, what's your motto for life? So I'm working with all these Swiss and German rich consultants. They've all got Porsches, okay? They all went skiing at the weekend. I was very jealous because in Europe they just head to Switzerland or France for the weekend and do a bit of skiing, and we're in rainy old England. Anyway, so I asked, and they're all rich and they're all clever. They're very clever, much cleverer than I could ever be. And I had to collect up all these mottos for life, and they all said. I can remember. They all said, just go for it. You have to do it in a slight German accent. Just do it. Just do it. Just go for it. Don't think too hard. Just do it. All this stuff. And it's just bullshit, isn't it? And they were the most cautious people on planet Earth, and they were lying. They were lying as if they were the reckless. These were consultants with grey suits and grey Porsches. And they were the most conservative bunch you've ever met. And their mottos for life were go for it. Liars. So mine, I can't remember mine, was to get more sleep, which is true. So advice for life, 2 bits of advice. Get more sleep and be a contrarian.
Don't go with the grain.
Don't ever.
It's boring.
It's boring, and more often than not, it's wrong. If everyone's saying the same thing, we'll leave it there. But so often, if governments and authorities and everyone's telling you one thing, it's probably the opposite is true.
Yeah. So, Howard, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the Modern Man podcast, sharing your thoughts and your opinions and making me laugh as I expected.
Good. Yeah, it was quite fun.
It was. Hopefully we'll have you back soon. Maybe a recurring guest, maybe.
Yeah, leave it a couple of years so I've got something to say.
Okay. What about a year? Let's meet in the middle.
Fair enough. Actually, things are changing in the planet pretty quick, aren't they? I think we might have to get back together in a couple of weeks the way things are going.
Exactly. But no, Howard, it was an honor. It's my pleasure, and I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts with our audience. I'm sure they would really gain a lot from it. So thank you so much, and everyone watching. This has been the Modern Man podcast. I'm your host Hamza Idris, as usual. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and can't wait to see you on the next one. Take care. Bye.